Welcome back to the Young Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode number 7. We are 7 weeks in. I know last week I thought it was episode number 7, but this is really episode number 7. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this podcast just yet. It may be called like the first step in entrepreneurship or self-awareness, self-education, the keys of life. I don't know what it's going to be called, but you'll get what I'm going at as we get into the podcast in a few more minutes from now. But today, I want to take a step back to talk about how we get to that point of true entrepreneurship. Because in the last 6 episodes, we talked about entrepreneurship, of course, and multiple streams of income. But how do we get to that point of true entrepreneurship? And so, a question for you. What was that turning point for you when you realized or decided that you no longer wanted to have just a 9 to 5? And I think for me, if I had to answer that question or just look back in time, I can say that I've always had that entrepreneur spirit within me, even at a young age. And even in high school, I can remember high school was a turning point for me. I was on for a new school that had just been built. So my 11th and 12th grade, you guys going to be at this new school. And I remember telling myself, okay, this is a fresh start, new school. So this is a time for me to really tap into who I am or who I, think I want to be at that moment. And that person was a person who was heavily involved in community service and giving back to the community. And so I found a sponsor who was also a Girl Scout leader because my mom did Girl Scouts. So I was in Girl Scouts for my entire high school or elementary, middle, high school career, grade school career, I guess you can say. I did work with my mom at the concession stand where my dad coached for my brother's baseball team. And so I've always been involved in the community. That's just how I grew up. That's just my upbringing in a sense. And so that's kind of who I am. That's kind of one of my foundations of who I am or, my morals or, lack of better terms. But so back to the story. So, I was going to be zoned for a new school, 11th grade year. So I found a sponsor and I was able to sit down with the principal. I went in his office and I had a whole slideshow of what I wanted to accomplish with the club. And the name was Zeta Nu Beta. It was a community service club built on, us giving back to the community and having a sisterhood of each other. It wasn't a sorority or anything of that nature. I just knew those Greek words would catch the attention of high school girls, 9th through 12th grade girls, because all of us had that dream of going to college and, pledging for a sorority, or at least most of us had that dream. And so I was able to pitch to our principal, and he loved the idea, and he gave me the green light. And from there, that club ran for 5 years. It ran for 3 more years after I graduated from high school. And so I can just think back and when I think back on all my ventures, from starting the club to running the club, even after I graduated, or even selling shirts and selling cupcakes, I've always been in that field of creating money for myself, creating a different means for myself than just working at a 9 to 5. Now, I did have a 9 to 5. I worked, I did have, a job, but I also made sure I had something on the side as well. And so, like I said, for me, I've always had that spirit within me from a young age. And I told you guys before that I eventually want to have a nonprofit working with the youth in the community. And just thinking about where that idea came from, it came from, or it was built when I was in high school. And so for me to have that same dream, almost 10 years ago, next year make 10 years, almost 10 years ago. And for me to have that same dream, it truly kind of tells me that I'm in the right direction. I'm going in the right direction, that it's not a trend. My dream of owning a nonprofit business is not just a trend because it maybe was, in session right now or, what's hot right now. It's truly something that I feel passionate about. And I think that as you become an entrepreneur, you have to figure out, when you want to start a business, you have to figure out, okay, either one or the other. The first one is you have to figure out, what can I do because I'm passionate about it? What business do I want to start because I'm passionate about it and I always do it, I love it? And then on the other hand, it can be, okay, what void do I see and how can I fill that void? So think about those two things when you talk about entrepreneurship and starting your own business or even creating multiple streams of income. I'm not preaching to you that you have to quit your 9 to 5 or anything like that. I just really want you to create another stream of income because you cannot always rely on the 1st and 15th or the 31st whenever you get paid to get paid, in a sense. Your money has to be working for you at all times. But if I had to answer that question of what was that turning point for me, I think, like I said, I've always had that spirit in me. But I think after joining the military and just being in the military for a while, even my last year in the military, in a sense, it really made me start thinking about life in a sense. And I was like, you know what? Now is the time to really do what I want to do. I've had this dream of on my own business, from the nonprofit to different other things. And so I was like, now is really the time because I don't have any kids. I'm not married. I don't have anything, I wouldn't say holding me back, but I don't have any responsibilities, truth responsibilities. I don't have kids. So, if I'm like, I just spend my money on this business, I can eat some noodles for, a week and be okay. But if I have kids, I don't want them to, have that struggle in a sense. And so I'm not saying that kids or being married is a burden or anything like that, because it's definitely not. It's a blessing. But I feel like the younger you are, the younger you should really tap into that entrepreneurship path in a sense, because you have nothing holding you back in a sense. And so really, as especially, people getting out of college, go into that field, learn more about it, learn from people who are doing what you want to do, and go out there and try to create your own. But work with people though. We always try to do things by ourselves, because so we can say we're the CEO, or this is my business. But really work with people, because when you work with other people who have the same vision as you, when you put multiple minds together, you can get way more further than you can just working by yourself. And it's funny because a few weeks ago, I had that aha moment. I'm not sure if you guys had that aha moment for you in entrepreneurship yet, when you realize, like, you know what, I'm tired of doing this. And I think I had that aha moment for myself, I'm working from home, because on the left side of me, I had my work laptop and, my notebook, all the good stuff. Then on the right side was my personal stuff. So stuff for my schoolwork, homework, stuff for the brand, and some other things I'm working on, for myself. And I was really looking back and forth, like, wow, I'm really wasting time putting my time and energy into this job, when I could be using those same valuable hours to put it into something that I'm truly passionate about, something that I enjoy doing, something that I can do all day because it makes me happy, it fulfills me. And that was really my aha moment a few months ago. I would say a few weeks ago, really, not even a few months ago. And, as entrepreneurs, we have so many different things that we want to accomplish. We have nothing but dreams, ideas, plans, everything just running through our minds constantly. And so that's just a key point in here I want to make. Make sure you keep your notebook with you. Keep a notebook with you at all times, to write down some of those ideas that come to your head. Or if you're on your phone, sometimes you have to screenshot certain things. People always ask, hey, what kind of logo should I have? Or what kind of page do I need to have? And, for myself, the advice I always give to people is, hey, if you were to go to my phone right now, you would see nothing but random screenshots of different things. It can be of logos. It can be of things apparel that I liked. It can be quotes. It can be anything, random colors, a color scheme. But I screenshot those things and I save them in my phone, because when I have a new idea or a new venture that I want to start, I can think back, like, oh, you know what? I like that logo that I saw for this company. And I reach out to my graphic designer, like, hey, I like this from this picture, this from this picture, this from this, blah, 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 blah. And that person is able to create something beautiful with it. And so, like I said, make sure you always keep a notebook with you at all times and write down some of those ideas that come to your head. And I know for me, like right now, let me see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 notebooks on my desk right now. And so if I go through them, one is for work, my 9 to 5. One is just some other personal stuff I have, personal goals, financial goals that I have. School, my layout for school, the course I need to take to graduate. Let's see, which one is this one? This is for another project I'm working on. And then one is for the nonprofit, just some research I've been doing lately. And then one is for the Young Entrepreneurs brand, of course. And so those are the 5 notebooks I have on my desk. Now, I don't take these 5 notebooks everywhere, but I really feel like you should at least take one notebook with you, at least when you go somewhere and when you're traveling. That way you can always have that there to write down something whenever it comes to your mind. And so I know a lot of you are just like me. You have a list full of ideas. And I know there are some times where you're like, okay, so how do I accomplish all of this? I want to do X, I want to do Y, and I want to do Z. But where do I start at? And, sometimes our dreams are so big that it's overwhelming. I can be quite honest with you. We have some dreams that are just overwhelming. It's so much to do. And but you have to know that timing. That timing is everything. Like I said, I wanted to start a nonprofit since, high school. And that's almost 10 years ago. This year is 9 years. Next year, make 10 years. And I haven't done that just yet because I know I'm not in the position where I need to be to start that business for it to run effectively. I know there's some things I need to learn. I need to work for some other people before I can just jump out on my own. Of course, I could have started a long time ago, but it wouldn't be as successful as I know that it can be. And so right now, what I'm doing for that business aspect in a sense, or that business sector in a sense, is researching, doing some things, researching, writing down. I have a mission statement, vision statement, all that good stuff, logo. And so right now I'm just doing some research, because a nonprofit, you need money to stay afloat. You can't rely solely on grants. So I'm researching, okay, well, how do I do fundraisers? What fundraisers can I do that aren't illegal in the 501c3 aspect? And so sometimes when you have these business ideas, you don't have to start it right away. I have a product coming out pretty soon where I'm going to talk about this, talk about a logo and all that stuff like that. But really take your time when it comes to starting a business and thinking about what business you want to start. Because today you can be like, oh, I want to start this business. Oh, and I like this logo. Let me get started. Boom. A week later, you're there. But then a week later, 2 weeks later, you can be like, oh, I don't really like this name. I don't like this logo. I'm not really feeling this idea anymore. Scratch it. And so you wasted all that time and money that you spend on, all those products and things of that nature, when you could have took your time and really did your research on it first. And so I say all of that to say, it starts with the small things. Don't be overwhelmed with your goals or your dreams, because it starts with the small things. And so I ask you, what are your daily habits? What are you pouring yourself into? What are you reading? Which leads me to my next point of self-awareness. I always say that the 4 keys to life are self-awareness, self-love, self-education, and self-preservation. But, self-awareness is the first thing I want to talk about. Who are you? What do you want out of life? What do you like to do for fun? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What are you passionate about? Those are the things that we have to ask ourselves to really get to know who our true selves are. And like I said earlier, sometimes you have to tap back into that young childhood go back to those memories. Like for me, I can think back in high school when I wanted to do a nonprofit and I wanted to work for a nonprofit in a sense. And so that's still a part of me. That's still one of my dreams. That's still one of my goals. And so sometimes you have to tap back into your younger child, because when you're young, you have dreams out of this world. You want to accomplish any and everything. But as we grow older, we kind of say, oh, you know what? I can't do that. I need to get a 9 to 5. I can't do that right now. And so tap back into who you were as a child. What did you truly enjoy? And think about what you want out of life. What lifestyle do you want? And so those are the things, like I said, we have to ask to get to know our true selves. And in order to really do this and to find out those answers, sometimes we have to remove ourselves from our comfort zone. And what is our comfort zone? Being in a city that we grew up in or that we went to school in. Shoot, even a place where all your family is at. Sometimes you have to leave your environment to see who you really are by choice and not by force. Because, of course, you don't really choose the high school you go to in a sense. You choose the college you go to, but you don't choose your family, really. You choose your friends, but, pretty much everyone is on that same page in a sense. And so when you move to a different city, for example, you have to choose. You can choose your friends. You can choose what job you want. Everything is a choice. And so when you start doing things because it's a choice, you really figure out that, man, I'm really a different person than I am at home or in the sense. And I can say for me, being born and raised in Atlanta to being in the military and, being stationed in 2 different, states, and now to me being out of the military but not moving back home, it's truly turned me into a different person. That it's allowed me to grow more than I thought I ever could have grown. And so just looking back, I'm like, wow, I've grown a lot. I didn't, you never think that, man, you can grow this much. And you can have so many different dreams and so many things you want to accomplish. And your mindset is just different when you're in a different environment. And so sometimes I think that we all really need that. So move away from home. Don't be afraid to move away from home even if it's for a year. You get a 12-month lease somewhere. Figure out who you are by yourself, but not with the influence of what you're used to, that comfort. And I say all of that to say, never be afraid to tap into who you truly are. And like I said, if that requires you to move to another state, even if that requires you to go on a month journey to another country to figure out who you are, you have to get to know who you are and what you want out of life. And I know you're probably thinking, well, what does this have to do with entrepreneurship? You're talking about figuring out who I am, being self-aware, what I like to do for fun, what inspires me. And I know you're like, well, what does it have to do with entrepreneurship? This is a Young Entrepreneurs podcast. But it has a lot to do with it, because nowadays you see so many businesses being started that don't make it within the first year, let alone the first 3 years, because people don't really know who they are when they start this business, and they don't know what they truly want or what they're after in life. And so I feel like you're going to spend a lot of time and money on your business ventures, and if you don't know who you are and what you want, you'll be wasting your time, money, and energy. But besides being self-aware of, knowing who you are, self-awareness, I also think entrepreneurship takes a lot of discipline and patience, because sometimes your business won't automatically pop and be as big as you want it to be in the first year. You won't have as many Instagram followers as you think you should have. And sometimes you won't know where you'll get the funds from to keep your business afloat. But you have to be disciplined and you have to be patient. So let's talk about discipline. Discipline comes from when you have $10,000 in profit. What do you do with that money? You're going to put some of it back into the business and then pay yourself a little bit of it? Or you're going to say, hey, well, I made 10K. I'm about to go to the mall now. Which one do you do? That's where discipline comes into effect into action I'm sorry. Because discipline comes from when you have $10,000 in profit and you can say, you know what, I'm going to put some of it back into the business, put some of it into the savings account for the business, and then I'm going to pay myself with a little bit. Instead of saying, well, I made 10K in profit. I'm going to go to the mall. I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to do all this, this crazy stuff in a sense. And so, like I say, do you have that discipline enough to save money, to reinvest, to educate yourself? Because just because you make a profit one day, it doesn't mean you're going to make that profit the next day. And so you have to know how to save for rainy days. Just like this coronavirus thing that happened. Small businesses didn't know that a virus was going to take place and shut down the country in a sense. And so was that owner smart enough to say, okay, let me put money aside for myself, for my business to still survive through the tough times? It may be 3 months, it may be 6 months, who knows? But let me put some money aside. And so that's where discipline comes into effect that, do you have the patience? And, patience comes into effect where, do you have that patience to wait enough to get that big break for your business to reach, because the first year you may not make any money. You may not have any followers on Instagram. But do you still have that motivation? Do you still have that patience to wait and keep grinding day in and day out to reach that goal for your business and for yourself? Because like I said, there are going to be so many pitfalls that you encounter when you start a business, and you're going to probably want to give up. I can guarantee you that at least 75% of the entrepreneurs who they're still doing the business today, they've been in a position where they wanted to say, you know what, I'm done, I'm good. Let me just stick to my 9 to 5 and let me just not worry about this. But it's going to be that discipline and that patience that keeps you going all the time. And that self-awareness, like I said, is going to push you through those hard days. But it's also that self-education that is going to continue to push you and help you grow. Like I always say, information is the most valuable commodity in the world. But a lot of people don't want to spend the time it takes to learn and research and educate themselves on a lot of different things. And, I have a whiteboard in, my office in a sense, and it says MVC equals information plus time, sell information. And MVC, so the most valuable commodity is information plus time. You need to sell information to win every time in a sense. And so like you see people all the time, they're selling courses, they're selling books. They're no different from you. They just took the time to research, to apply what they learn, and then to sell it to you, because you don't want to buy 10 books to read it. You just want to buy that one book in a sense. And so that's what I mean by MVC equals information plus time, sell information. And so that's a quote I have on my whiteboard that I leave there all the time. I never erase that. And I talk about information being the most valuable commodity. But let me tell you, when you start your business or you're even running your business, day in and day out, you have to do your research and you have to keep learning. You have to keep growing so your business can grow. It's the things like, creating a business plan, knowing what you can deduct on your taxes if you have an LLC, or knowing who your target audience is, doing research on that. You don't just wake up one morning and know how to do those things. You have to educate yourself. So I asked you, what books are you reading? What things have crossed your mind that you actually took the time to stop and do some research on so you can answer your own questions? Because so many times we often ask questions, but we don't want to know the answer in a sense. We don't want to look up the answer. I can think years ago as a kid, and I asked my parents a question, and they respond. They will respond with, go look it up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to know it anymore. But I literally had to look it up because they told me to go look it up. And so back then I can say I hated that because I feel like they could have just told me the answer, and I'd have been good to go. But now I truly see the value in self-education. So as you walk on your journey of entrepreneurship or creating multiple streams of income for you and your family, and, just breaking generational curses, always remember that you have to educate yourself and always know who you are, because no one can take away who you are or what you know. And I want to leave you with a quote of the week. It says, the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. Again, the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is an illusion of knowledge. Let me know what you think about that quote, y'all. But I hope this podcast has really made you think and ask yourself, who am I? What do I want out of life? Where do I want to be in a few years? Because I don't care what anyone else says, but the first thing in entrepreneurship is being self-aware. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many followers you have. But if you don't know who you are, what you're selling, whether it be a product or a service, is going to be trash if you don't know who you are. You have to be true to yourself first, and then you can go out and change the world. Like Charlemagne the God said in his book, Black Privilege, F your dreams if they're not really your dreams. That's all I got for y'all today. See you guys next week. Thank you.